Warning: the following video contains strong language and opinions that viewers may find offensive, especially if that viewer is Lee Power. Please do not watch this with children nearby. What's up guys, ChasingLamely here, and yeah, I know I said I was going to sort of cut back a bit. This is not going to be like an every day, every week. This is going to be a when I feel like it series, so no schedule. Essentially, and you saw the disclaimer at the start, like I don't do disclaimers very often. There was a disclaimer at the start. Madness. I found myself getting, as many of you know, I'm a Swindon fan, and I find myself getting increasingly frustrated with just how terribly our club is being run, to the point where I've realised that I have a YouTube channel and Football Manager, and at least for the occasional flight of fancy, I can save us from the hell. Disclaimer after the disclaimer, I'm going to be brutally honest about our club. So if you're watching this as a Swindon fan and you're what we call the happy clapper, you're not going to like this. If you are in fact glad all over, you're not going to like this. Because for those of you who don't know, the once mighty Swindon Town are currently under the ownership of, what's the best way to describe him? The world's tightest human being with the least possible ambition for a football club. So I had to do my law student thing in my head then. Also warning, you might find these videos contain jump cuts because I've watched them back and lawyer brain kicked in and went, that's going to get you sued. So if there's jump cuts, I said something I shouldn't have said. Well, I said something that I should have said, it was honest opinion, but I can't afford to get sued by our glorious leader. That being said, we are essentially going to play a Swindon Town save because of the nature of our football club, whereby the chairman buys the players, sells the players, hires the staff, fires the staff, picks the team, doesn't communicate with the really adores the fans and considers us a well-run club. We hear nothing from him, ever. He's the shadiest chairman since the Italian fella at Leeds. Basically, this is a director of football challenge, but with two very small differences. The first difference is that I am going to allow myself to tell him to get rid of players. You'll see why when I explain the squad to you, with my honest opinions of said squad. They're not great. They're not great opinions. Also, the second rule is, once I figure out how I'm going to force power out of our club, whilst letting him control everything, and he's gone, we're just going to do a normal save where I'll start buying players again. Hopefully we won't have been fired before he's gone. Hopefully we'll start to be able to turn things around and move upwards. For those of you who do pay attention to League 2 in real, that still irks me that I have to say we're a League 2 side. We are very likely in real life to become the first team to have been in the Premiership to go to the conference. And the only thing that's going to stop us is if Oldham get there first. Sorry, Oldham fans, but that's the truth. Anyway, this is a long intro. I'm going to do the intro now. Let me know if this is annoying. Not as annoying as being a Swindon fan, I promise you that, and I'm sure we'll get some Oxford fans in who will comment and tell you. But, yeah, let's do the intro. Right, so here we are then. We have taken control of the club, and when I say control, I mean control very, very loosely. Let's go through the god-awful interview stage, the welcome to the club thing, with Dr. Evil himself. Poundland Power. Great, let's get the meeting started. A club with a lot of history. The fans really appreciate when a newly appointed manager has taken time to increase their knowledge of the club. Same goes with the chairman, Arcade. Just saying. I appreciate you might already know a fair amount about Swindon's background, but I can send a detailed overview of the club's history to your inbox if you'd like. Well, I'll get that so you guys can find out what we're dealing with. As was mentioned in your welcome message, the club has some specific philosophies which will be judged on during your time at the club, which are as follows. Sign young players to the first team and develop young players using the club's youth system. Our youth system historically produces some very good players, and then we sell them to Southampton. You know how people joke about Southampton being Liverpool's feeder team? Basically Southampton's feeder team. Theo Walcott was ours. All of the Mills brothers, Joe, Matt, etc. basically ours. And then you've got a few others we've sold on over the... So many youngsters have been sold on and turned good, and we've just suffered because of it. We're not going to have a meeting because it's not my decision who we sign. That's traditional horror press conference, sure, or do the token press conference where I tell them how well run our club is. They always do it, by the way. We've just hired Richie Wellens in real life, and I love Richie Wellens as a player, great player. He literally came out and said this is a well run club and blah. I was like, Jesus. Put it on a screen. Anyway, hand your meeting over to the coach. He's got a few things to talk about. Cool, thanks. This is Matty Taylor. We sort of like Matty Taylor at the moment. Give him a chance to do that. It'd be great to see a summary and second opinion. Great, let's do that. Let's meet our backroom staff because that's the only thing I can do. I don't need to do any of that. Right, I'm going to show you why I need to do that. Because, like as I said, I've set this up basically as it is in real life. Lee Power is in charge of everything I can put him in charge of. The only things he is not in charge of are the things I wasn't... Like, I can't put him in charge of training. And I can't put him in charge of picking the team, even though we all know he picks the team in real life. Don't you, Lee? So, that's basically it. Let's have a quick look through the inbox, just so we can switch go. I'm going to do the tactical induction in a second. In fact, I've still got it in Krona because I'm currently, because of the journey. It's going to be irrelevant. Money is not an issue here. These are the transfers we've made this summer. The key signing is child killer. Let's not call him child murderer. Technicality. Child killer Luke McCormick, who you know, I said we can get a ready player we want. You can get out of my club. You can get out of my club, McCormick. I don't care how good you are. There is no place for you in my team. He literally won't play. If you're a Luke McCormick fan, and God knows why you would be, he is not going to play. Tamani Diaraga came in. Diaraga. It's a long name. He's obviously coming from Fleetwood. He's played kind of everywhere and never really been particularly good. Obviously, as I've mentioned on the journey, divide by 10 with Krona. Just divide by 10. Michael Doughty came in. We like Michael Doughty. Despite being a part-time footballer, as we've recently discovered, it's not reflected on the game, by the way, but he is a part-time footballer because he's also a millionaire because his dad was horrendous rich, but also been our best player this season. He will stay as long as I can keep him, but I'm not in charge of contracts. Martin Smith came in. Looked decent when he first came in, and I think the jury's out a little bit on him again now, but we'll keep him around. Jack McCourt came in, and you know, he's alright. He's nothing special. Jermaine McGlashan came in. Everyone was really excited when he came in because only Swindon fans can get excited about a 30-year-old winger who's never really achieved a great deal in football, but we did. So he's in. Sid Nelson, the centre half from Millwall, has looked really good. Hopefully he'll continue to look really good. Luke Wolfenden, again, Wolfie, he's okay. He's starting to look like a real potentially good talent, so we like him. Stephen Alzate is arguably the best player in our squad, on loan from Brighton. He tends to do bits of everything for us. He'll be a key for us as long as we've got him. And Elijah Adebayo, who has come in from Fulham. I don't know why he's in our under-18s in this, but we'll move him now. He's decent, but he's nothing special. That's kind of the thing. So those are the incoming players. Responsibilities have all gone to Lee Power. Everything has gone to Lee Power. We'll sort out the pre-season mess off camera because that's what we do. Right, this is the background to our club. For those of you who don't know the club, we were founded in 1879. which for those of you who are bad at maths means we've been going for 139 years. Oh, my maths is going to be awful now. That might actually be right, 139 years. I'm doubting my maths now and I'm fairly sure they're right, that's awkward. We're a professional club, for now. For those of you who are watching this whilst playing FM20 potentially, but probably not a professional club anymore. Playing in the Sky Bet League 2, we finished 9th in League 2 last season. As I record this, we're currently 17th and falling. We play at the Energy Check County Ground. I'm always going to refer to it as the County Ground. The sponsorship thing is stupid, especially when we don't see any of the money. I'll explain why in a second. We train at Beaversbrook. The reserve team play at Gerard Buxton Sports Ground, while the youth team play at Beaversbrook. I've also average junior coaching and average recruitment network. We still produce some good players. Got to the semi-final of the youth cup a couple of years ago. Don't think any of those players are currently in our squad. The club is affectionately known as the Robins and retains a fierce rivalry with Oxford United, Bristol City and Reading. Accurate. We enjoyed our best spell of success during the 1960s, sad but true, and our last competition win was 2012, which I'm guessing that was League 2, wasn't it? We won in 2012. Yeah, that's an awful win. The Robins are a club with a growing history. We won the League Cup in 1969, beat Arsenal. And then won the Anglo-Italian Cup because they created the Anglo-Italian Cup because UEFA wouldn't allow us into the UEFA Cup, which Arsenal won despite not qualifying because we beat them. So we technically own the UEFA Cup too. Just putting it out there. I won the third tier for the Untitled in '96 and finished runners-up on 2 occasions. We finished runners-up in the Community Shield in 1911. Random fact, and won the English 4th tier in 1986 and 2012. So that's the history of the club. We'll have a look at Matt Taylor's Swindon report and we'll see what he's saying. A lot of impressive decision makers. There is plenty of room in the transfer budget with £120,000 to be spent. Good. Goalkeepers again, communicators. Michael Doughty is one of 6 good options in central midfield. Kane Woolery is the best of 3 players able to play on the right wing. Keshi Anderson is the best of 5 players able to play up front. Luke McCormick is very good in goal. Sure he is. Won't be here doing that. Kyle Noyle represents very good quality at right back. Opinions can be wrong. Dion Conway is a very good option at centre back. Actually quite like him. There are a number of talented young prospects including Ellis Andelo, Jordan Young and Joe Romanski. Agreed. Goalkeepers are pretty good just in general. We possess a high level of acceleration, a high level of agility, and there's £3,500 in the wage budget to spend. Defensive depth, we could do with more than just Matthew Taylor able to play at left back. Fact. I mean, he's telling us himself we need more than just him to play there. That's a fact. The lack of quality depth in goal. Problems with the squad. Let's have a look at our predicted finish. If I can click on the right bit for a change. So the season preview, they got us down to finish 9th again. I think that's optimistic somehow. Let's look at the squad. The squad is always the key part. We just bring up the under 18s as well, so we can talk about everything all at once. In fact, we shouldn't need to. No, let's do that. Right, Luke McCormick, disregard. He is going to the under 19s now, on the under 18s now, and he's staying there. Lawrence Vigouroux, we like Lawrence Vigouroux. I say we like him. He's divided opinions among Swindon fans. I think he's an incredibly good goalkeeper. I think he's the best goalkeeper, at least outside the Championship. Personally, my personal opinion, I'm going to get slated for that. Very good keeper. Has been called up to the Chile squad, so that gives you some idea of how good he is in real life. He also famously paid a £50 fine from the club in pennies. We bought him from Liverpool for just under £500,000. He spent back end of last season on loan to Waterford because our manager is our manager at the time, Flitcroft, was a humongous child. Sorry, Mansfield fans, I'm really sorry. Thank you for taking him from us. I essentially had a falling out with David Flitcroft, and Shitcroft acted like a baby and persuaded Lee Power to pack him off to Ireland as a punishment. Will Henry is going to be our backup goalkeeper this season. I quite like Will Henry. He's got a lot of potential. He is an England under-19 international in real life, which isn't reflected on the game, weirdly. But he has been in the England under-19 squad. He's listed for loan. We're going to stop that from being a thing now because I want him at the club. Because I'm allowing myself that one small pleasure of making sure I have a second goalkeeper. Dion Conroy we've covered, Nelson and Wolfenden we've covered, Joe Blackwell, young lads, he's decent, he's not special, we'll allow him to be loaned out for sure. Where's he probably going to Hungerford, that's acceptable to me. Jay Dunstan Digweed again, decent, needs time to develop. I should be showing us that here. He's a decent, he needs to develop a bit. So we'll probably let him go out on loan. Kyle Noyle I covered already. He's okay for this level, but I always get the impression he thinks he's better than he is, and he's a League 2 player, like barely average one. Matty Taylor, you all know, he was at Bolton for a long time, Bolton and Portsmouth, West Ham. I think he was in the England squad a couple of times. He's been around. He's also a coach of the club, was caretaker manager for a few weeks last season. Usually plays at left back for us. I wish I was kidding. Despite being a pretty well known left winger, he usually plays at left back for us. He has the acceleration, pace and turning circle of an oil tanker. It's not his ideal position, but he is the only left back at the club, which presents a humongous issue for us. He was our player of the year last season, by far the best player we had, was the only reason we even vaguely looked competitive, which is unfortunate, but his legs are going now in real life and on the game. So my sort of decision with him is I want to try and sort of convert him into a regista. I've always had this idea in my head, or at least for the last few months I've had in my head, Matty Taylor's best role, because if you look at his ability to sort of distribute the ball, his passing, his vision, his crossing, he's kind of made for that shit Pirlo role, which is what I think I want to use him for. Tamale Diarraga, as we've shown him before, he's decent all round, good box to box. Came on loan to us years ago and no one was overly impressed by him, but he's come back and people are still not massively impressed with him, but he looks okay. James Dunn, almost universally acknowledged as the worst player at Swindon Town. He's just not very good. He's been improving a little bit recently, but he's just not very good. Like, it is a mystery to me how he's played 300 league games. Martin Smith we covered before very briefly. Looks a decent prospect. We picked him up from Coleraine. He's played for Kilmarnock, Carlisle, Gateshead, started at Sunderland. He looks okay. I think he might be a decent player eventually. Jack Mccoy, originally at Leicester, he's one of those guys who bounces around lower leagues, as you see so often these days. Could turn out good, could turn out badly. Harry Stanley's a youth team kid who we will let out on loan. He could develop into something good. Same with Jordan Edwards. I don't show you both, all the youth team kids. McGlashan, he's all pace and not much else, and his pace is going to start to go. If he gets sold, I wouldn't be terribly sad, but I'll keep him around for now. Doughty and Alzate we've covered. Keshi Anderson, allegedly the best striker at the club. I think he's probably more of a winger than a striker. For me personally, he's more of a winger than a striker. His finishing isn't great, but he feels like an inside forward to me. It's always felt like an inside forward to me. He's not, he's not a worldie. Keshi Anderson, he's barely good enough to be here. I think it was rumoured we signed him for about 450,000-ish off the top of my head. Might be a bit less. not really done much, but we'll hope. Kane Woolery, I know for a fact we spent 600 grand on. That's 370. I'm pretty sure we spent 600,000 on him. Was the number was? We spent 6 figures on him essentially, and he's never really done anything anywhere. Tends to play on the wing for us. Can sort of play either side. Does an inside forward quite well. Nominally is a striker, but you don't want that in front of goal. Not if you can avoid it. We also have Mark Richards. Mark Richards is the slowest striker in football. He's almost constantly injured. I think a finishing rating of 8 is generous based on this season's performances, if I'm completely honest. He is also, aside from playing for us, he's a youth coach at Northampton, and he always seems like he cares more about Northampton than he is about Swindon. I'm sorry, Mark, if you for some reason see this, but that's genuinely the impression you give, that you care more about your job at Northampton than you do about playing for us, and that's not good. Scotty Twine is a youth team lad. I'm just going to very quickly take him off of that loan list because I have no interest in letting him go to loan at all. Stats don't lie much, and I openly admit this, but I also know just how good a footballer this guy can be. For those of you who don't know, I used to be our researcher for the game. I've seen him play a lot, and I rate him very highly. I think this lad, if he gets developed properly, which sadly he won't at Swindon in real life, if he was developed properly, this lad could be a top half championship striker. He could be the next sort of Charlie Austin, the next Lukas Jukovic, kind of come out of our little system of developing quality strikers. But I like him and I want to keep him around. I want to develop him as best as possible, so he will definitely stick around for as long as it takes for Power to realise there's money in their hills, and sell him and spend the money on his other projects. Scott Price, the lad from the youth team, could turn into a decent player. We will be keeping an eye on him, but if he goes out on loan I won't be sad because I don't necessarily intend to play him this season. We also have Elliot Duggan, young lad, youth team. Standard story. In fact, we're going to put him back in the youth team. He's just not ever going to be ready for the first team, honestly. If you look at our youth team, obviously I've just chucked the McCoy down there. Joe Romanski absolutely should not be there because he could turn into a decent centre half for the club. I don't particularly want to go on loan, but I won't cry if he does. Always looks like he wants to play for the club, which is more than you can really ask of a young lad. You'll notice here that Chris Robertson and Oliver Lancashire are down here. I'm just going to casually do this, and then I'll explain why, which is, I know is backwards, but it will make sense when I explain it. Here's the deal. Chris Robertson was signed last year by Shitcraft. He is utterly awful. He has no pace, he has no defensive ability whatsoever. Somehow played 18 games for us last season. Somehow the fans, when he was signed, will manage to be duped into thinking because he had all this experience, 300 odd matches of experience, he was going to be that big, strong, tough, tackling guy we needed at the back, the experienced head, the monster. Just useless. So he can go. Oliver Lancashire is nominally the club captain. We're not entirely sure why, because he's one of the worst footballers ever to put on a Swindon Town shirt. Certainly the worst centre half. Genuinely gives me nightmares every time I watch him play, and just the sooner he is gone the better, and we are going to hope our glorious leader moves on very rapidly. LSE Andelo, he can come up with Iandolo. I always pronounce his name wrong, which is weird. He's going into the senior squad for sure. I like him. I like that he's very versatile. I like that he's quite a good worker. I want, like, the fan in me wants this guy to be the one who really develops and becomes a star for us. And that's kind of something I'm going to try and push for during this save. Also, Jordan Young is worth paying attention to. Similarly, he does work hard, and he seems to want to be a footballer, which is good. Been with us for a while, played a few games, always looks decent when he comes on, so we're gonna give him a chance. A few of these other guys you might see Giamatti come through, you might see Taylor come through, you might see Bancroft come through, you might see Haynes come through. That's basically the rundown of the squad, and I'm very aware this is a long episode so far. There won't be any football today, by the way. If you're hoping to see footage, there won't be football. We're just setting up the save for now. So yeah, the introductory advice, it says make Luke McCormick captain. He's not going to be here. He is dead to me. He doesn't exist. And yeah, everything else I want to say about him I can't say. The scouting stuff is irrelevant to us really, because Lee Power makes all of our transfer decisions. In terms of finances, we don't have 21. I have to stress this again. We don't have £21 million. It's minus 10, so we have 2.2 in the bank, which I find very hard to believe. Lee Power has 120,000 to spend. We have a £56,000 a week wage budget, of which we're spending 52, so about 4,000 left to go. The other thing to be aware of, and this is a big thing at Swindon, this is a really important thing to be aware of at Swindon. Ignore these, we just play them in friendlies occasionally and send players on loan, and they come back worse somehow. Waterford is the big one. This isn't, the database you guys are playing with doesn't have this on here because for some reason SI have omitted it. I don't know why. Lee Power owns Waterford as well as us. And Lee Power, for everything we've seen, and I might be wrong, I'm sure he'll end up being sent a copy of this video if I insult him enough. As far as we can tell, Lee Power gives not a single toss about Swindon Town. He couldn't care less if we were playing in the Hellenic League West, as long as we're generating enough money for him to funnel into Waterford to fund them in their quest for the Champions League. And again, this is just my honest opinion. We send players on loan to them about as often as is humanly possible. We're essentially their feeder club. We, in theory, have first option to buy their players because our chairman owns both. We probably end up playing friendlies against them a lot. They can send junior players to train. I'm not sure if they do that in real life, but it doesn't seem like a huge stretch that they would, especially since he's now allegedly spending money on a state-of-the-art training facility for Swindon. Not for his horses, for Swindon. We share the same board, we share scouting knowledge. Basically, that's the explanation of the whole setup we're doing. Everything revolves around this guy here. Essentially, the Waterford project is to make up for his own kind of anxiety, I think, that he was the only London-born lad with an Irish grandmother who didn't get called up by Jack Charlton for an Irish squad. Honest opinion. And he seems to be taking it out on us. Anyway, that is the rundown intro to the club, to what we're trying to achieve here. There will eventually be some kind of football on the next episode. Again, this is... the journey is the main thing. The journey is the effort. If I'm going to sit and record an episode, the journey will always come first as a priority. This for me is a side project. It's a random, spontaneous thing that I'll do just to fill time. When I have random bits of time, I won't promise you regular episodes. If I get one out a week, it'd be okay for me, and hopefully okay for you. It's going to give me a chance to vent some frustration a little bit about what's going on at my club, which is horribly mismanaged, despite what he's had his little puppet tell you at the press conference. We're going to have some fun with it. We're going to try and actually win, maybe. I wouldn't guarantee that, because I've been into the editor and I've set Lee Power up properly. So in the editor, Lee Power's judging of ability and potential ability was, and Swindon fans will enjoy this, 15 out of 20. I genuinely can't name 5 players he signed for us that were good enough for the league we play in. 15 judging ability. Nice job. He also had attributes missing, like signs players from lower leagues. Like signing a cheap player from lower league does Lee Power. Poundland Power. Not going for the big names. if you can find a player who looks like he might just barely be good enough for the Conference South, playing on the local park for a pub side, you'll sign him. Just throwing it out there. His resources were a 5 out of 20, and I had a vague look around to sort of get an idea of what 5 out of 20 resources wise is, and the guys on that list have net worths of 9 figures. Lee Power has a net worth of 48 million, allegedly, and in terms of resources willing to put into the football club, I think I've got more change in my wallet. So yeah, that's been dropped down to a 1. Yeah, that's basically it. His business skills were 15 out of 20, and they have gone down to an 8, because yes, we do make money and run at kind of a solvent level. That's because we run as cheaply as humanly possible, and we're going to be playing this save as realistically as possible. I mean, you as a Swindon fan, you could almost see him bringing in a YouTuber to manage the club because it would be cheaper than an actual manager. If he could find someone to do it for free, they would be hired for the job. That is what we're dealing with. So it does make sense in a weird, backwards logical kind of way that we do this. We'll be back with the next episode of this whenever I get around to getting it out. For now, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment below, and you can find me on Twitter at ChasingLamely if you want to send me random abuse because you're an Oxford fan or a happy clapper. Glad all over. Until next time, I've been Chasing Lamely. Have a good one.